The giant crystal room of the Galactic Council buzzed with strange alien energy. Bright blue lights danced across the walls as floating screens appeared in the air above the meeting table. Admiral Vexthon, from the powerful Zephyrian Empire, pointed his long finger at 12 tiny dots on the screen. "Look at this, my fellow council members," Vexthon said through his voice translator that made crackling sounds. "Our best spy satellites found these small ships floating near the edge of our territory. They seem to be coming toward us very slowly." The other alien leaders leaned forward to get a better look. The Vorthak ambassador was huge and made entirely of living purple crystal that sparkled when he moved. His whole body started glowing brighter, which meant he found something funny. "Only 12 little ships?" the crystal being asked with obvious amusement in his voice. "Those things look smaller than the cargo trucks we use to move supplies around our planets. Are we supposed to be worried about that?" Next to him sat the Nemari representative, who didn't have a solid body at all. Instead, she was like a smart cloud of colorful gas floating inside a special glass container that kept her together. The gas swirled faster as she spoke. "I've been studying their engine readings," she said in a voice that sounded like wind blowing through trees. "These creatures are still using basic fusion power, the same kind of energy source that baby civilizations use when they first learn to travel between stars. Their ship hulls are made from simple metal alloys that we stopped using thousands of years ago. This is probably just some new species taking their very first trip away from their homeworld." On the other side of the room, a group of insect-like creatures called the klaxon started making clicking and buzzing sounds. They shared one big brain between all of them, so when one thought something, they all knew it instantly. Their clicking sounds turned into what sounded like laughter. "Why should we waste our time with proper greeting ceremonies?" they buzzed together. "These tiny ships couldn't hurt a spacefly, let alone threaten any of our mighty empires. They're probably lost and scared, floating around in the dark trying to find their way home." The enormous council chamber filled with all kinds of dismissive sounds. Some aliens were chuckling, others were making their species' version of sighs or eye rolls. A few were already starting to pack up their meeting materials, clearly thinking this discussion was over before it started. None of these powerful alien leaders had any idea that far away, floating in the cold darkness of space, Captain Kim Jiho was sitting in his command chair aboard the human ship called UES Hanbit. He was looking at his own glowing screens that showed the massive alien space station where all these creatures were having their meeting. Kim was a calm, thoughtful man with dark hair and steady hands. He had spent years training for this exact moment, humanity's first meeting with alien civilizations. But unlike the aliens who were laughing at his ships, Kim knew exactly what his small fleet was really capable of. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park Minji from her position at the sensor control station, "they're definitely watching us with their long-range scanners. But the good news is their scans aren't very deep. They're only seeing what we want them to see." Park was young but brilliant, one of Earth's best sensor specialists. She had helped design the special coating on their ships that would fool alien scanners into thinking human technology was much more primitive than it really was. Captain Kim's face showed no emotion, but inside he was pleased. Everything was going exactly according to Earth's careful plan. "Perfect," he said quietly. "Let them think we're just simple explorers who got lucky enough to build a few basic spaceships. The longer they underestimate us, the better our chances when the real test begins." Admiral Vexthon walked through the long metal corridors of his command ship, his boots making heavy clicking sounds on the floor. The meeting with the Galactic Council was still fresh in his mind, and their decision was crystal clear. Those 12 tiny human ships weren't important enough to deserve proper diplomatic treatment. The Zephyrian Empire had rules for meeting new alien species. Usually, they would send their best diplomats, translators, and cultural experts. They would approach slowly, exchange peaceful greetings, and spend weeks learning about each other. But not this time. The Council had decided these newcomers were too primitive and weak to bother with such fancy procedures. Vexthon reached his command center, a room filled with glowing screens and busy alien officers. He walked up to his second-in-command, a younger Zephyrian with dark blue skin and 4 arms. "Send out the patrol cruiser Nexarthul immediately," Vexthon ordered, not even looking at his subordinate. "Have Captain Kelmaran go check out these visitors. If they're just lost tourists from some backwater planet, Tell him to point them toward home and send them on their way." His assistant looked confused and a little worried. "Sir, are you sure just one ship is enough? I mean, there are 12 of them out there." Vexthon let out a harsh laugh that sounded more like a bark. "One of our patrol cruisers weighs more than their entire pathetic little fleet combined. This isn't a military operation. It's basically just taking out the garbage. Kelmoran can handle it with his eyes closed." Several star systems away, Captain Kelmoran was eating his dinner when the message came through. He was a veteran officer who had been flying patrol missions for 20 years, and he was not happy about this assignment. He threw down his eating utensil and groaned loudly. "Are you kidding me?" he complained to his crew. "They want me to take my entire ship to deal with 12 tiny vessels? What's next? Are they going to ask me to use our main battle cannon to—" "SWAT space flies." His first officer tried to stay positive. "Maybe it'll be quick, Captain. We fly out there, tell them to leave, and we're back home in time for the evening entertainment programs." Kelmoran shook his head in frustration. "This is insulting. I've fought in real space battles against dangerous enemies. Now they want me to babysit some primitives who probably don't even know which end of their ships points forward." Meanwhile, far away in the cold darkness of space, the human fleet was very much aware of what was happening. Communications Officer Lee Sunho sat at his station aboard the UES Hambit, his headphones covering his ears, as he listened to alien radio signals. "Captain Kim," he called out, turning around in his chair. "I'm picking up movement from their main fleet. Looks like they're sending just one ship to check us out. And sir, this thing is absolutely huge compared to our vessels." Captain Kim walked over to the main tactical screen that showed green dots representing their 12 ships and one massive red dot approaching from the alien fleet. The size difference was incredible. The single alien ship looked like it could swallow 3 of their vessels whole. But Kim had been preparing for this moment his entire career. He knew that in space combat, size wasn't the only thing that mattered. Speed, tactics, technology, and most importantly, the element of surprise could beat raw mass any day. "Keep our ships in standard formation," Kim ordered calmly. "Don't change course. Don't speed up or slow down. Let them come to us exactly as they expect to." Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyok was standing nearby, studying the enemy ship's approach pattern. He was the fleet's tactical expert, the man responsible for coordinating all 12 ships when the fighting started. A small smile crossed his face as he watched the alien vessel getting closer. "They really have no clue what they're about to run into, do they, Captain?" Choi asked quietly. Kim nodded slowly, his expression serious but confident. "Not even the slightest idea, and that ignorance is going to be their biggest mistake." Thul. Massive Zephyrian patrol ship Nexarthul moved through space like a giant metal whale, its hull bristling with weapons and sensor equipment. Captain Kelmoran sat in his command chair, drumming his fingers impatiently as his ship approached the 12 tiny human vessels. "All right, let's get this over with," he muttered to his crew. "Power up our strongest scanning systems. I want to know everything about these little ships. What they're made of, how many crew members they have, what kind of weapons they might be hiding, though I doubt they have anything more dangerous than harsh language." The alien ship's sensor arrays came online with a deep humming sound. These were the same scanners that could see through solid rock and count the rivets on a ship's hull from 1,000 miles away. Kelmoran expected to peer right through the human vessels, like looking through glass windows. Instead, something very strange happened. The scanning beams hit the human ships and scattered in all directions, like light bouncing off a broken mirror. The readings on his screens made no sense at all. "What in the galaxy is going on?" Kelmoran demanded, leaning forward in his chair. "Why can't we get a clear reading on their ship construction?" His science officer, a thin alien with large purple eyes, was frantically working at her control station. Her 3 hands moved quickly across different panels as she tried to make sense of the confusing data. "Captain, this is really weird," she reported, her voice filled with frustration. "Their ship hulls seem to be made from some kind of layered material, maybe different metals stacked on top of each other. But every time our scanners try to identify the specific elements, the readings keep changing. It's like their hull material is designed to confuse our instruments." Kelmoran felt his patience running out. This was supposed to be a simple intimidation mission, not a scientific puzzle. he decided to try a different approach. "Open communication channels," he ordered. "Let's see if these primitives can at least talk properly." Immediately, signals started flowing from the human ships, but instead of complex language or advanced communication protocols, the aliens received exactly what they expected from a backward species. Simple mathematical concepts came through their speakers, basic counting sequences, prime numbers like 2, 3, 5, 7, and elementary geometric shapes. Kelmaran relaxed back in his chair and chuckled. "There we go. See how simple these creatures are? They're sending us baby-level mathematics, probably thinking they're impressing us with their intelligence. They've barely figured out basic math, and they think they're ready to explore the galaxy." His crew joined in the laughter. To them, this was proof that these newcomers were exactly as primitive as they appeared. But thousands of miles away on the human flagship UES Hunbeat, a very different conversation was taking place. Communications specialist Nam Yuna sat at her station with a headset on, carefully monitoring every alien transmission and response. "Captain Kim," she reported with barely contained excitement, "they're completely falling for our deception. The aliens think our mathematical signals prove we're primitive, and our hull scanners are working perfectly. They have no idea that our ship materials are actually advanced metamaterials, designed specifically to fool their senses." The truth was that every single aspect of the human ships had been carefully engineered for this exact moment. The hull materials weren't primitive at all. They were incredibly sophisticated composites that could deflect enemy scanners while making the ships appear crude and simple. The mathematical signals weren't signs of limited intelligence. They were carefully chosen to make the aliens underestimate human capabilities. Captain Kim nodded approvingly. "Outstanding work, Nam. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know exactly what they're thinking." He then activated his internal ship communication system. "Engineering department, this is the captain. What's our status on the special connection system?" Deep in the ship's engine room, Chief Engineer Kang Minho wiped sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to incredibly complex machinery. All around him, his team was preparing systems that the aliens couldn't even imagine. "Captain," Kang's voice came through the speaker with confidence, "all our ships are ready for the linkage protocol. Every connection point has been tested and double-checked. When you give the word, we can transform from 12 separate vessels into our combined battle formation in less than 30 seconds. Kim smiled. The trap was set perfectly. The fabric of space itself seemed to tear apart as 3 enormous Zephyrian battle cruisers suddenly appeared from hyperspace. These weren't patrol ships or explorers. These were full military warships, each one the size of a small city. Their dark metal hulls were covered with hundreds of weapon ports, and strange alien symbols glowed along their sides. Admiral Vexthon stood on the bridge of his flagship, wearing his full military uniform decorated with medals from dozens of conquered worlds. He had decided to handle this situation personally. In his mind, these primitive humans needed to see real Zephyrian power before they would understand their place in the galaxy. The 3 massive ships moved into position around the small human fleet like wolves surrounding sheep. Their formation was perfect, a triangle shape that military experts called the death grip because it allowed maximum firepower from all angles with no escape routes. "Turn on all communication systems," Vexthon commanded in his deep, threatening voice. "I want these primitives to hear every word clearly." His voice boomed across space on every radio frequency, so loud and powerful that it would have been heard on any nearby planets. "Attention, unknown vessels. You have illegally entered territory belonging to the mighty Zephyrian Empire without permission or proper documentation. You will immediately turn your ships around and return to whatever backward world you came from. This is your only warning." To make his threat even more frightening, Vexthon gave another order. "All ships, power up primary weapons. Let these aliens see what real military force looks like." The response was terrifying to watch. All 3 battle cruisers began glowing with deadly energy as their weapon systems came online. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids started charging up. Particle beam projectors that could slice through solid steel began targeting the human ships. The energy readings were so high that they lit up the darkness of space with an eerie blue light. On any normal day, 12 small ships would have immediately surrendered or tried to run away. The Zephyrian fleet had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But aboard the UES Hanbit, Captain Kim was actually smiling as he watched his tactical display. The alien ships had positioned themselves exactly where Earth's military strategists had predicted they would. Every war game, every simulation, every training exercise had prepared the humans for this exact moment. Perfect, Kim said quietly, to himself. They're following their standard attack formation just like our intelligence suggested they would. He activated his communication system, but instead of broadcasting to the aliens, he sent an encrypted message that only his own ships could understand. The message was short and simple, but it would change everything. All ships, this is Captain Kim, execute Harmony Protocol immediately. Begin linkage sequence on my mark. 3, 2, 1, now. What happened next was something that no alien species had ever seen before in the entire history of galactic warfare. The 12 human ships suddenly burst into coordinated action with perfect timing. It was like watching a carefully choreographed dance performed by master artists. Hidden panels on each ship's hull slid open, revealing mechanical arms and connection points that had been completely invisible during the alien scans. Small thrusters fired all around each vessel, moving them with precision that seemed impossible. The ships began reaching out to each other with their mechanical arms, like pieces of a giant puzzle coming together. Admiral Vexthon watched in complete shock as his tactical display showed something that made no sense. "What are they doing?" he shouted at his crew. "Ships don't behave like this." His tactical officer was staring at the screens with his mouth hanging open. "Admiral, I don't understand what I'm seeing." The 12 separate ships are connecting to each other. They're becoming one giant vessel. The alien crews watched in amazement and growing fear as the human ships locked together with metallic clicking sounds that echoed through space. In less than a minute, where there had been 12 small harmless-looking vessels, there was now something completely different, something that no alien military manual had ever described. The trap had been sprung, and the Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the smallest packages contain the biggest surprises. The clock on Captain Kim's control panel showed exactly 47 seconds had passed since he gave the order. In less than a minute, the entire nature of the battle had changed completely. Where 12 small, seemingly harmless human ships had been floating just moments ago, there was now a single enormous weapons platform that looked like nothing any alien species had ever built before. The transformation was incredible to watch. Each of the 12 ships had locked perfectly into place with the others, creating something that was much more than just the sum of its parts. The connected vessel looked like a giant mechanical flower made of steel and advanced technology, with each original ship now serving as a specialized petal in a deadly bloom. Admiral Vexthon felt his confidence drain away as he stared at the impossible sight on his viewing screen. His hands were actually shaking as he gripped the arms of his command chair. "This can't be real," he whispered to himself. "In all my years of military service, in all the wars I've fought across the galaxy, I've never seen anything like this. No alien species has ever built ships that can connect together like this. It's supposed to be impossible." The truth was that while other alien civilizations had focused on building bigger and bigger individual warships, humans had taken a completely different approach. Instead of one massive vessel that could be destroyed by a single lucky hit, they had created 12 smaller ships that could work together as one unified fighting machine. On the new combined bridge of the human battle platform, Commander Park So-young was studying the alien ships through sensor systems that were now much more powerful than anything the 12 separate vessels could have managed alone. "Captain Kim," she reported with excitement in her voice, "we've got them exactly where we want them. The 3 Zephyrian ships are still arranged in their standard triangle attack formation, but that formation only works when you're fighting multiple separate targets. Since we're now one connected platform, their positioning actually makes them easier targets for us." The human battle platform was like a technological miracle. Each of the 12 original ships now shared its power with all the others, making the combined vessel incredibly strong. The computer systems were all linked together, creating processing power that rivaled the defense networks of entire planets. Most importantly, even if the enemy managed to destroy several sections, the remaining parts could keep fighting. Captain Kim's voice now echoed through speakers located throughout the entire connected platform. Every human crew member could hear him clearly, no matter which original ship they had started on. "All stations report your readiness status," he commanded. One by one, reports came back from every department. "Engineering ready, Captain." "Navigation systems optimal." "Communications fully operational." "Defense systems online and monitoring." Kim nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent work, everyone. Weapons department, it's time to show these aliens what human engineering can really accomplish. Chief Weapons." Officer Han Jiwon sat at her control station, which now had access to weapon systems from all 12 ships combined. Her fingers moved quickly across multiple control panels as she brought online weapons that the aliens had never even imagined. "Railgun batteries are fully charged and have target locks on all 3 enemy vessels," she reported professionally. "Electromagnetic pulse generators are online and ready to disable their computer systems. Point defense grid is active and monitoring for incoming fire." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian flagship, panic was starting to spread through the crew. The science officer who had been so confident earlier was now frantically working at his instruments, and the readings he was getting made no sense. "Admiral," he called out, his voice filled with fear, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from their combined ship. These readings are completely different from what we saw before. These aren't the primitive fusion drives we thought they were using." Admiral Vexthon felt a cold chill run down his spine. "What do you mean? Explain it clearly." The science officer's voice cracked as he delivered news that would change everything. "Sir, their power output is... Admiral, their energy production is 3 times stronger than our entire battle group combined." The silence of space was about to be shattered. For a few tense seconds, both fleets faced each other like ancient warriors preparing for battle. Then Captain Kim gave the order that would echo through galactic history: "All weapons, fire at will." The human battle platform unleashed its fury. First, and what happened next shocked every alien who witnessed it. Instead of the colorful energy beams that most galactic civilizations used in space combat, the humans fired something completely different. Railguns positioned throughout the connected ships hummed with incredible power as they accelerated small tungsten projectiles to unimaginable speeds. These weren't fancy laser beams or plasma bolts. They were simple chunks of metal moving at 17% the speed of light. At those velocities, even tiny projectiles carried the destructive power of nuclear weapons. At the same time, electromagnetic pulse generators created invisible waves of energy designed to fry computer systems and overload electronic equipment. While other species had focused on building bigger energy weapons, humans had perfected the art of using physics itself as a weapon. The first barrage hit Admiral Vexthon's flagship before anyone on board could even react. The bridge crew watched, in stunned silence, as their defensive screens showed incoming projectiles, then suddenly erupted into chaos as those projectiles arrived. The kinetic rounds slammed into the Zephyrian ship like invisible hammers striking an anvil. The vessel's energy shields, which had protected it from countless plasma cannon attacks in previous battles, might as well have been made of tissue paper. The tungsten projectiles punched straight through the defensive fields without even slowing. "Down? Shields are completely useless," screamed the tactical officer, his voice filled with panic. "The projectiles went right through our defensive grid like it wasn't even there." Admiral Vexthon gripped his command chair as his ship shuddered from multiple impacts. Warning lights flashed red throughout the bridge as critical systems began failing one after another. His decades of military experience had never prepared him for anything like this. "How is this even possible?" he shouted over the sound of alarms. "Our shields can stop the most powerful plasma cannons in the galaxy. They've protected us from particle beam weapons that can melt asteroids." His science officer was frantically working at his control station, trying to understand what was happening to their ship. "Admiral, I think I know what's wrong. Their weapons aren't using exotic energy or strange particles like our weapons do. They're literally shooting solid chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Our shields were designed to deflect energy attacks, not physical projectiles moving this fast." The other 2 Zephyrian battlecruisers tried to fight back, but their counterattack was equally futile. Their plasma cannons fired brilliant beams of superheated gas toward the human platform, but something amazing happened. Instead of striking their target, the energy beams were intercepted by a complex web of defensive systems. Some of the plasma bolts were absorbed by special armor plating that had been designed specifically to handle energy weapons. Others were deflected away by precisely controlled magnetic fields that bent the energy beams like light passing through a prism. The human battle platform seemed to swallow the alien attacks without taking any damage at all. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyuk watched the battle unfold from his tactical station aboard the integrated platform. He had spent years studying alien military tactics, and everything was going exactly as Earth strategists had predicted. "Captain, their attack patterns are completely ineffective against our defensive systems," he reported with satisfaction. "They're still trying to fight us using the same energy weapon tactics they use against other alien species. They have no idea how to handle kinetic warfare." Captain Kim nodded as he watched the tactical display show the 3 alien ships struggling helplessly against human technology. "Perfect. This is exactly what our military planners expected. Continue the engagement sequence and show them what happens when you underestimate human engineering." The battle was just beginning, but it was already clear that this wasn't going to be the easy victory the Zephyrians had expected. As the battle raged on, the Zephyrian communication officers were desperately trying to intercept and decode human transmissions. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about warfare and technology. Admiral Vexthon listened to his intelligence team's reports with growing amazement and fear. The more they learned about human military philosophy, the more he realized how completely different these newcomers were from every other species in the galaxy. "Admiral," his chief intelligence officer reported, "we've been analyzing their weapon systems and ship design. I think we've been approaching this all wrong. While we and every other galactic civilization have been chasing after more and more exotic technologies, these humans took a completely different path." The second Zephyrian battle cruiser was taking heavy damage, its hull breached in multiple places by kinetic projectiles that hit with the force of meteorites. Warning lights flashed across its bridge as the crew struggled to keep their ship operational. Vexthon watched the destruction with new understanding. "They've perfected the fundamentals," he said quietly to himself. "While we spent centuries developing quantum plasma manipulators and dimensional folding weapons, they focused on making basic physics work better than anyone thought possible." It was true. For thousands of years, galactic civilizations had competed to create the most exotic and complex weapons. They had dark matter cannons that could bend space itself, energy weapons that manipulated the fabric of reality, and defensive systems that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But humans had asked a simple question: why make things complicated when simple solutions work just as well? Instead of exotic matter weapons, they had perfected the art of accelerating ordinary chunks of metal to incredible speeds. A tungsten rod moving at 17% of light speed carried more destructive power than most energy weapons, and it was much harder to defend against. Instead of building massive specialized warships, they had created modular vessels that could adapt to any situation by connecting together in different configurations. Deep inside the human battle platform, Chief Engineer Kang Minho monitored dozens of status displays showing how well their revolutionary design was working. Every system was operating perfectly, and the modular connection between ships was distributing power and absorbing damage exactly as intended. "Captain Kim," he reported over the communication system, "all systems are running at peak efficiency. The beautiful thing about our modular design is that even if one section takes damage, the other 11 can compensate automatically. We're spreading the load across the entire platform." On the Zephyrian flagship, the science officer was running detailed scans of the human vessel's hull composition. What he found made him respect these newcomers in a way he had never expected. "Admiral, I need to revise my earlier assessment," he reported with genuine admiration in his voice. "Their ship hulls aren't primitive at all. Those materials that confused our sensors earlier, they're actually incredibly sophisticated metamaterials designed to absorb and redistribute kinetic Energy. They haven't tried to transcend the laws of physics like we did. Instead, they've mastered those laws completely. Commander Park Soyoung coordinated the battle from her tactical station, her hands moving across control interfaces that were connected to all 12 ship components simultaneously. Each original vessel maintained its own ability to make decisions and react to threats, but they all shared processing power through quantum-encrypted communication channels that were impossible to intercept or jam. The human approach was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of building one massive computer brain that could be destroyed by a single lucky hit, they had created 12 smaller brains that worked together as one super-intelligent system. Admiral Vexthon finally understood what they were really facing. "This isn't just advanced technology," he said to his remaining crew members. "These humans have developed an entirely different philosophy of warfare itself. While we made our weapons more exotic and complex, they made theirs more effective and reliable." He realized that humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had found ways to make simple, fundamental principles work better than anyone had ever imagined possible. The tide of battle had turned completely. What had started as what the Zephyrians thought would be a quick intimidation mission had become a devastating defeat that would be remembered throughout galactic history. 2 of the 3 massive Zephyrian battle cruisers were now floating helplessly in space like wounded giants. Their hulls were punctured in dozens of places by kinetic projectiles, and sparks flew from damaged systems throughout their interiors. Most critically, their quantum computer processors had been completely fried by electromagnetic pulse weapons, leaving the ships unable to control their own basic functions. The crews aboard these disabled vessels could only watch through their viewports as emergency lights flickered and life support systems struggled to keep working. These were warships that had conquered entire star systems, and now they were as helpless as broken toys. Admiral Vexthon's flagship was the only Zephyrian vessel still capable of movement, but barely. Alarms blared throughout the ship as his crew desperately tried to keep critical systems online. The Admiral realized that continuing to fight would only result in the complete destruction of his remaining ship and the death of everyone aboard. "Retreat!" he shouted to his navigation officer. "Get us out of here immediately. Prepare for emergency hyperspace jump." But Captain Kim had anticipated this exact scenario. The moment he saw the alien flagship beginning to turn away from the battle, he knew what they were planning. "All ships," Kim's voice echoed through the communication systems of the human battle platform. "Target is attempting to flee. Break formation and pursue. Disable, but do not destroy." What happened next demonstrated the true genius of human modular ship design. The massive connected battle platform that had dominated the fight suddenly began separating back into its 12 individual components. Mechanical arms retracted, connection points disengaged, and within seconds, 12 independent vessels were moving through space with perfect coordination. This was the moment when the Zephyrians truly understood what they had been fighting. Each human ship could operate alone, but when working together they shared information and tactical processing power instantly. There were no communication delays, no confusion about orders, and no gaps in their formation. Lieutenant Park Minji monitored the fleeing Zephyrian flagship from her sensor station aboard the UES Hanbit. Her instruments showed the alien ship's engines charging up for a hyperspace jump that would carry them far away from the battle. "Captain," she reported urgently, "the target vessel is powering up their hyperspace drive. They're trying to escape by jumping to faster-than-light speed. I recommend we hit them with an electromagnetic pulse to disable their drive systems before they can get away." Captain Kim didn't hesitate. "Authorization granted. Take out their hyperspace capability." "Specialist." Han Jiwon had been waiting for this moment. Her fingers moved expertly across her weapon control interface as she targeted the fleeing alien ship with precision electromagnetic pulse generators. These weren't the massive area effect weapons used earlier in the battle, but focused beams designed to disrupt specific systems. The invisible electromagnetic pulse struck the Zephyrian flagship's hyperspace drive just as it was building up to full power. The alien ship's escape system flickered like a dying light bulb, sparked violently, and then went completely dark. Admiral Vexthon felt his heart sink as his chief engineer reported the devastating news. "Admiral, hyperspace drive is completely offline. We're dead in space with no way to escape." Through the viewport of his bridge, Vexthon could see all 12 human vessels moving into position around his disabled flagship. They formed a perfect circle, with each ship pointing directly at his vessel. Despite being individually smaller than his battle cruiser, together they represented overwhelming firepower that could destroy his ship in seconds. "Admiral," his communications officer called out nervously, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're requesting our surrender." Vexthon stared at the tactical display that showed his hopeless situation. 12 small ships, each one individually weaker than his flagship, had defeated 3 of the most powerful warships in the Zephyrian fleet. It was impossible, but it had happened. "Open communications," he said finally, his voice heavy with defeat. "Let's see what these humans have to say." The main viewing screen on the Zephyrian flagship flickered to life, showing the calm face of Captain Kim Ji-ho. Behind him, the bridge of the human battle platform buzzed with quiet activity as crew members efficiently managed their stations. The contrast was striking. While the alien ship was filled with alarms and panic, the human vessel operated with smooth precision. "Admiral Vexthon," Captain Kim said in a respectful but confident tone, "I am Captain Kim of the United Earth Space Forces. I'm here to discuss the terms of your surrender and arrange safe passage for you and your crew back to your territory." Admiral Vexthon felt his world shift on its axis. Throughout his military career, he had always been the one offering surrender terms to defeated enemies. Now he found himself on the receiving end, and it was a humbling experience. "United Earth?" he repeated, trying to understand what he was hearing. "Are you telling me that you represent just a single planet?" Captain Kim nodded calmly. "That's correct, Admiral. Earth is our homeworld, and we've come here to introduce ourselves to the galactic community. We hoped for peaceful first contact, but we were prepared for other possibilities as well." The implications hit Vexthon like a physical blow. If a single world could build technology this advanced, what did that mean for the established galactic order? The Zephyrian Empire controlled hundreds of planets, and yet they had been defeated by ships from one small world at the edge of known space. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, emergency communication sessions were taking place on every major world and space station. The Galactic Council called an unprecedented emergency meeting while military leaders from dozens of species demanded detailed reports about these mysterious humans. The Crystal. Beings of Vorthak analyzed combat footage with growing amazement. The gas creatures of Nemari ran computer simulations, trying to understand how modular ship design could be so effective. The hive-minded Klaxons shared collective thoughts about the implications of kinetic warfare. Every major galactic civilization was forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about military technology and space combat. For centuries, they had competed to develop increasingly exotic and complex weapons. Now a species using relatively simple physics had outfought them all. Aboard the human ships, crew members were already preparing detailed reports for Earth Command. Commander Park So-young worked at her communication station, composing an after-action summary that would be studied by military academies for generations. "Mission accomplished successfully," she typed into her report. "Human technological capabilities have been demonstrated effectively to galactic civilizations. The element of surprise worked perfectly, and our modular ship design proved superior in every aspect of combat. Recommend immediate diplomatic contact with major galactic powers while we have their attention and respect." The 12 human ships that had been laughed at as a tiny fleet were already becoming legendary throughout the galaxy. Military historians were calling it the most significant first contact event in galactic history. Instead of the usual pattern of newcomers being conquered or absorbed by existing powers, humanity had announced itself as a force to be respected. Chief Engineer Kang Min-ho was particularly pleased as he compiled his technical analysis of the battle. "Modular ship architecture performed beyond all expectations," he wrote in his report to Earth's shipbuilding facilities. "The ability to function as separate vessels or combine into a single platform provided tactical advantages that specialized ship designs simply cannot match. Kinetic weapons and electromagnetic warfare gave us decisive superiority over traditional, energy-based combat systems. Strongly recommend immediate expansion of our Harmony-class modular platform production. As news of humanity's victory spread, something fundamental changed in galactic thinking. Advanced civilizations that had spent millennia pursuing exotic technologies suddenly realized they might have been going in the wrong direction. Maybe the most effective solutions came from perfecting basic principles rather than abandoning them for more complex alternatives. Captain Kim made his final log entry as Earth came back into communication range. First contact with Galactic. Civilization achieved successfully. Human capabilities clearly established. The galaxy now understands that Earth's people fight with precision, adapt with intelligence, and win through superior engineering. Our tiny fleet has opened the door to the stars for all humanity.